Now, most people in the gym are making at least one of these mistakes and it is killing their progress. So in today's episode on the Storm Fitness Academy podcast, I am going through the 3 biggest mistakes that you and your clients are making that are holding them back from their progress. Now, back in 1999, when I first qualified as a gym instructor and a personal trainer, my first job was working as a gym instructor. And I would often get some of the older members, when I say older, I don't mean necessarily older in age, but members that have been members for a long time, coming up to me and saying, "John, I've been training here a while now, and I feel like I'm not making any progress." So my first response would be, "Okay, let's take a look at your program." And can you guess what the response was? I didn't have a program. That was the first problem right there. So that is often the catalyst to everything that's going to go wrong after that, is training without a program. Now, I'm sure in another episode at some point, I'll talk about the benefits of going off piste and just doing your own thing and using a bit of intuition, but that's only occasionally. Most of the time, the majority of the time, you want to make sure that you and your clients are following a structured program. So I would say the first mistake that people are making is they don't have a program. They're just going to the gym and doing what they feel like doing. Now, there's lots of problems with this. When we don't follow a program, we tend to gravitate towards the stuff that we do well because it makes us feel good. Oh, look, I'm going to go on the bench press. I've got quite a good bench press. I'm going to do some more of that bench press because it makes me feel good. Now, the problem with that is you've already got a good bench press. We don't necessarily need to make it any better. But what about those back muscles? Are those back muscles as strong as they need to be? So what you end up doing is avoiding all the areas that you're not so good at and strengthening the strengths that you already have. Now, when we follow a structured program, we have a program that certainly maintains and reinforces our strengths, but it develops our weaknesses, our areas of development. And unfortunately, yes, at times it's going to be the areas that we're not as enthusiastic to train because we don't feel very competent in those areas. And that's where PTs come in, because we can keep you motivated, we can keep you entertained with our stimulating conversation and our positivity. And we just motivate you to work in those areas so those weaknesses no longer are weaknesses, and we bring them up to balance with all the other areas. Now, obviously, I'm talking about muscles there. So when we're talking about weaknesses and strengths, we're aiming for sort of structural balance. So the posterior muscles, which are the muscles of the rear of the body, are balanced with the anterior muscles. The upper body is balanced with the lower body. The left side is balanced with the right side. So when we do that, not only do we avoid any sort of spinal deviations, but having a very strong bench press, for example, and a weak back also will prevent your long-term progress of your bench press, because there'll become a point where you will not be able to develop that bench any further because you've got weak opposing muscles. Now, there's other areas, obviously. It might be that somebody has very good endurance, but their musculoskeletal system isn't very good. So we're spending way too much time on that cross trainer, on that rowing machine, and not enough time in the weights room, getting stronger, building denser muscles, stronger connected tissues in the joints. So we need a structured program that is personalized to our goals, or if we're programming for a client, for the client's goals, and also for their current abilities. Now, of course, take in consideration their preferences, because we want to make sure they enjoy it, we want to make sure they're intrinsically motivated, but at some point, they are going to have to address their areas of development, their weaknesses. Now, the other downside to not having a program is people typically, they will chase volume over anything else, which basically means when they want to get fitter, they stay in that gym for longer. They come to the gym more often. And it's not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but it's just not precise enough to optimize progression and avoid overtraining. Because what happens is most people, they'll be like, okay, well, I've been coming to the gym for 60 minutes. I might now go for 90. You're increasing the volume of that training session by 50%. That's huge. That's a lot. That could potentially lead to overtraining. You might go, whoa, I'm quite enjoying this weights. I've done a couple of weeks of this and I'm quite enjoying it now. I'm going to go and see what my 1 repetition max is, and I'm going to lift as heavy as I can. So you're going from maybe 50 to 60% of your 1 repetition max to your 100% of your 1 repetition max. That's a big increase in intensity. That's doubling the intensity of your training. Again, can lead to overtraining. So a structured program is going to make sure you've got progressive overload, so you're increasing your fitness, your strength, your endurance, all that stuff, but you're also avoiding overtraining. Now, while we're still talking about the benefits of having a training program, what we also want to make sure that program has is a training log, so that we actually log what we're doing. Because some weeks you are going to have more energy in the tank and you're going to have a bit more motivation, enthusiasm towards that training session. So on those days, you probably are going to get an extra rep out, maybe 2. And you're going to find that you complete your 5K run in a slightly faster time. And what we do is we log that data. And then we can look at that data as PTs, or if we're training ourselves, we can look at that data and just see over time, are things moving in the right direction? Mistake number 2. Now, this mistake used to be huge back in the strength and conditioning world. When athletes were training many, many years ago, they just didn't put enough emphasis in this, and that is recovery. Now, the strength and conditioning world has caught up a bit, so athletes and teams are very much into their recovery and have a very good understanding of it. Coaches are very, very cautious and careful to make sure they plan and implement recovery into their athletes' training sessions. But the average gym goer or the average client of a PT, not so much. So ignoring recovery could be a mistake that you're making with your own training or your clients. So just to give you a bit of background on the importance of recovery, when we're training, that is not when we're adapting. So all those juicy adaptations like the heart getting stronger, the left ventricle getting thicker, more muscular, the mitochondria developing, the efficiency of the whole cardiorespiratory system getting better, our muscles getting denser, larger, producing more force, our connective tissues thickening and strengthening, all that good stuff, that doesn't happen when you're training. Nope. That happens when you're resting. And actually, most of it happens when you're sleeping. So let's go there first. Sleep. You need to optimize sleep. So if you're a coach or a trainer and you're not having a conversation with your client about their sleep, you're missing out on a trick here. So you really need to promote good sleep hygiene. Going to bed at the same time every night, getting up at the same time every morning. I know, boring. But when you feel the benefits of improving your mental health and your physical health, you no longer care about going to bed at the same time every morning, getting up at the same time in the morning, being boring, because you feel great. So really optimize your sleep. Now also, just general recovery. Now this word overtraining, you'll hear it thrown around a lot in the fitness industry, but also the strength and conditioning world. And overtraining is really under recovering, because people can train to different levels. Some people you can just keep throwing intensity at somebody and they keep coming back asking for more. Others, you throw a little bit of intensity and they are so sore and they are so mentally fatigued for so long that they cannot recover quick enough. So that's where we have to optimize recovery. Now, it's not just about having rest periods, and it's not just about quality sleep. Another important component of recovery is nutrition. If you're not fueling the body with the right nutrients and you're not nourishing the brain, your physical health and your mental health is really going to suffer, even if you've got good quality sleep. So nutrition is super important. So as a coach or a personal trainer, you've got to be talking to your clients about their nutrition. And it might be when you do your check-ins that you find that from chatting to them, they are saying that they are struggling. They're struggling a little bit with their energy, with their mood, with their alertness. They're turning up to training a little bit lethargic, not really up for it. And then when you look at their food diary, or you at least do like a 24-hour food recall with them, you realize, well, no wonder you're not eating enough. You're certainly not getting enough protein in there. And there's just not enough vitamins and minerals in your diet. Most of the foods you're eating are in packets. They have labels. You're eating way too many processed foods or ultra processed foods. Now, also, you want to be looking at stress. If your client's really stressed, it might be something that they're dealing with that there's not too much you can do about removing that stress for them because it's a difficult part of their life. But you can teach them some stress management techniques, breathing techniques, meditation, just getting away from all the noise, going out over the downs for a nice walk in nature. There's a number of different things they can be doing. Talking therapy, talking to you, talking friends. So just being aware that stress isn't actually very helpful when it comes to recovering from training. We want to kind of reduce that stress to optimize recovery. So making them aware of that. Now, the other thing I'd highly recommend that you do for your clients is planning deload weeks. Deload weeks, people think, well, isn't that just for athletes? No, not necessarily. If you're training a client and they start off buzzing, loads of energy, training's going brilliant, they're making progress, and then you find them starting to plateau and actually even dip a little bit, it could be that you're 5 or 6 weeks into training and they're just genuinely fatigued, which means they just need a week off. They need a week deload. Now, when I say week off, I don't mean a week of doing nothing. You never have to do nothing. There's very few occasions where that's ever a good thing, doing nothing. But a deload can be halving the volume, halving the intensity. Doesn't even have to be as much as half. It's just tapering back. It's making that week a more comfortable, easy week. Now, I am a big fan of keeping the routine of training going. So even turning up to the gym, doing the same program, but leaving some reps left in the tank, more than you would usually. That's a great way to deload. And also, as a personal trainer, if you're doing face-to-face live PT, you don't want to be saying to those clients, you can have next week off, don't worry about paying me, because you've got a business to run after all. So you still need to get paid. So it could be that you spend your deload weeks doing less reps, holding them back a bit, more comfortable session, more social, having a bit of a chat, bit of time to sit down with them and review goals, and then a lot more flexibility work, even meditation if you're brave enough to do that, if you've got some experience with that, breath work, that type of thing. Mistake number 3, poor exercise selection. Now, for years now, personal trainers, and if you're a personal trainer, you'll listen to this, I'm sorry if this makes you cringe a bit, they have been notoriously bad for giving their clients their program. That's my program. I love my program. It works great for me. So I think all my clients can follow that program. But your clients are not you. So you have to remember that. They are individuals. Now, of course, there's going to be exercises that you think are very, very good. You might think that the kettlebell wood chop is such a helpful exercise for training somebody to rotate their torso under load to prehab them from injury. Sounds very sensible. Good idea. But don't forget, your client might not have that range of motion yet, and actually working on their mobility before you add load might be preferable. So just remember that. Exercise selection is vital. It's going to be making sure that every exercise is relevant to that client's goals, their abilities, and we want to consider preferences too. So let's say you love the Stairmaster. Oh, I love the Stairmaster. I give all my clients a Stairmaster because it's great for torching body fat and making somebody have wonderful glutes. But your client hates it. And they're coming to your session, they're like, I'm going to go and see my PT in 10 minutes and I'm already getting anxious about that Stairmaster. Now, it could be just enough stress or enough intimidation that they're going to find excuses not to come, not to turn up. And you don't want that. You want clients coming to your sessions buzzing, looking forward to it. embracing the challenge and embracing the struggle, knowing that it's great for them and they're going to work hard, push through it, not dreading it. So do factor in their preferences as well. And look, we've got to be a little bit realistic with these exercises as well, because on one hand, I love the variety that's out there now for training. So many different bits of equipment, so many different ways you can learn to move the body, but we still have to be realistic. If you're getting your clients balancing on a stability ball with one leg, juggling kettlebells because you're like, that's going to be a really challenging exercise, that's going to really work on their core stability and their unilateral leg strength and their coordination and balance and all that stuff. Yeah, maybe, but is that transferable to real life? And actually there's a big injury risk there and it just looks stupid. So obviously that's an extreme example. I don't know if anyone's actually doing that, but I've seen some stuff on Instagram. I won't out this individual, but a friend of mine, he's constantly showing me this guy that he follows, and he's following him for the comedy aspect because of these ridiculous things that he's doing in the gym. And it's overcomplicating it. Don't overcomplicate it. Pick exercises that you think are going to help your client move closer towards their goals. And they might not be the exercises that you'd give yourself. Now, there are obviously some staple exercises that tend to have big carryover into day-to-day life. So certain exercises might show up with some slight variations, over the training year. Squatting, deadlifting, overhead presses, pulls, rotations, carries. Those sort of exercises are always going to carry over into everyday life quite well. So you probably are going to have those as staple exercises. But do always consider the client's preferences, their abilities, and what stage they are in their training. So there we go. 3 big mistakes there. Let's have a quick recap. Number 1 is not having a program. Make sure you and your clients have a program for the majority of the year. Number 2, ignoring recovery. Ignore recovery at your peril. Number 3, bad exercise selection and execution. So make sure you choose the right exercises for your clients. And there we go. Now, don't beat yourself up if you've been making any of these mistakes. Blimey, I've made some mistakes in my time, and I'm sure I will continue to make mistakes. I remember back in the day when I first qualified, a customer coming up to me and saying, John, I really need your help. I'm in here every day, sometimes for 2 hours. I'm working really, really hard, and I'm not losing any weight, and I'm trying to lose weight. And I sat down with them, I had a look at their training, and I determined that they were just working too intensely to lose weight. And that the fat burning zone, I don't know if you guys have heard about the fat burning zone. That's another podcast episode to discuss in the future, I'm sure. But my belief at the time was if she stayed in the lower intensity fat burning zone, she would have lost more weight. So she was just working too hard to lose weight. Now, of course, what I should have been doing is having a conversation with her about a diet, because that was probably the issue. 80% of weight loss is diet, isn't it? So that's the conversation I should have been having. Instead, I gave this ridiculous advice that she was just working too intensely and she needs to work at low intensity. Idiot. But we make these mistakes, don't we? But the important thing is we learn from them. Now, if you have made any ridiculous mistakes like that yourself, I would love to hear from them. I'd be very brave. I challenge you to share a really silly mistake that you made. Obviously, it wasn't silly to you at the time, but looking back, it feels silly. Challenge you to share that. Now, if you liked today's episode, do please like. It is really helpful. It's great for helping me keep doing this. It's just lovely for my ego and my self-confidence. So I appreciate it if you do like it. Subscribe if you want to make sure that you never miss an episode, and share with somebody else. So share with friends, family, other professionals that you think might be interested in this. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.